Hello, welcome to art class everyone. My name is Allison Greenhouse. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. It's season 3 of art class with Mrs. G House, and I have brought a really fun painting, watercolor painting to do with you today. I've been playing around with this summer, and this year I've been helping out at Norris Middle School, and we've been working on this with the middle school students, and I just think this is so fun. This reverse painting is called, or negative space painting, and I'm really excited to kind of dive in with this. This is a great lesson or watercolor project to do if you're just kind of practicing with your watercolor paints. And it's also kind of nice if you're just trying to de-stress. You don't have to have a lot of technique to do this, and it's a great way to play with watercolor paints. I have brought some Strathmore watercolor paper, but it also works on, this is white tag board, which is just like a heavyweight mixed media paper. So totally up to you. If you have watercolor paper at home you can use, you might be able to do it even on a piece of heavyweight cardstock. I'm going to use this Strathmore watercolor paper, and I'm going to do 2 different paintings. I'm going to fold this in half just so that you can see a couple of different techniques here on this negative space painting. So I like to work kind of small when I'm first trying a new technique, and that helps me not be too stressed out about the cost of the paper. You know, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, this paper is so expensive. Well, if you cut your paper down and you work really small and you just play around, then it's no big deal. And sometimes I might even flip this over and paint again on the back of this side, because why not? It's still good. Okay, so I've got my Strathmore watercolor paper. I've got some round paint brushes. This is a, let's see, these are the ones I usually use with my students, Royal and Langnickel. You're going to need a round watercolor paintbrush. I've got a cup of water. I have my Crayola watercolors. These are so great for beginners, and this is Education Watercolors. I don't love the washable version of this. This is a little bit nicer quality than the washable version, and it usually comes with a really nice paintbrush, which I don't have in here. This is not the one it comes with, but if you buy these, I think you can get them at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and of course on Amazon. This set is about $12, I think, $12 or $14, but this is a nice beginner set. I have paper towels, I've got a placemat, and then we're also going to cut out some stencils. So for instance, this one I had triangle, a heart. This one I had 2 different sized hearts, circle. I was playing with this one today. This one has leaves. So we're going to do, I think I'm going to do a leaf for one, and I'm just going to do a circle for one. So I'm going to use some cardstock paper. This is just a piece of scrap cardstock that I had. And I'm going to cut out the shape. You don't have to use a tracer, you could just draw it on there, but I find that sometimes it's easier when I'm doing repetition in my artwork to draw, to have something to trace. So I'm going to trace or cut out this leaf. That looks pretty good. I actually found a leaf outside and traced it. That looks great. And then my other one is going to be a circle, which I can cut out a circle, or I can just trace this. This is an old spool. So I'm going to do 2 different paintings, and before I start tracing, the first thing I want to do is do a very light wash on both of my paintings. And a very light wash means you want to have a lot of water. And something that takes a little bit of practice when you're first starting with watercolor paints is knowing how much water you need for certain applications, and that just takes some practice. This is the wet on wet method. I'm going to do my circles on this side, and I think I'm going to try and do it kind of like these two where I did the blue on top. So I want to put all kinds of colors on this one, but I don't want to get any orange on here. Does anyone know why I don't want orange in my wash? If I'm going to paint blue on top, then orange is the complement of blue, and blue and orange mixed together will make a muddy brown color. So if I was planning on painting green on top, I would avoid red. If I was planning on painting violet on top, I would avoid yellow. So I try to avoid the complement in my background color, and that just helps keep things from looking too muddy, because I'm going to layer paints on here. So I've done some red, done some hot pink. I do want some yellow in here, but if I get it too close to the red, it will turn orange, and then I'm going to cover it with blue. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. But I can put a little bit of this color on here. If it gets too puddly, you can always take your paper towel and blot it. Maybe some of this teal. Oh yeah, I like that color a lot. So this is just a wash, and this has to be dry, completely dry before my next step. And I did bring my hair dryer. I like to speed dry things. So that looks pretty great. That's going to be the one with the circles. This one is going to be my leaves, and I'm going to do this one monochromatic. That means one color, different values. So this lesson teaches value, but it also teaches space and distance between the objects. It gives an illusion of things going into the distance. So this one, I'm only going to do oranges. I'm going to wet my page using my paintbrush. It would be easier if I had a bigger paintbrush probably for this wash, but I'm going to want this fine tip paintbrush later for going around all my shapes. Now I'm going to choose this orange, and I'm going to make myself a nice puddle of that orange right here and really water it down because I want it to be the lightest color. I'm going to use the same orange for the whole painting, but I want this to be as light as it can be right here. So that is going to be this first layer. Sometimes I think as art students, young art students or old art students, you know, adults who are just learning about art or kids that are learning about art, they get frustrated when the first try is not like a finished product. And that's just not realistic. I've played around with a bunch of these. I've made a whole bunch of them, and you know, some of them are great, some of them are not as great, but you just have to keep trying different techniques and trying different things and understanding the medium. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna stop there, and this one that I did first is puddling, so I'm gonna take my paper towel. I don't want to really blot a lot of this because I don't want to lose. If I take my paper towel and blot this like that, it's going to pull up too much of the color. Did you see that? It took away too much color, but I do want to just take a little bit of the, you know, where it's puddling. And now I'm going to use my blow dryer really quick to dry this. Okay, that's pretty good. It is important that between your layers, everything's dry. So now I've got 2 washes. They're both really different. I'm doing that on purpose so you can see, you know, 2 different techniques here. I mean, the technique's the same, but the color is going to look differently in the end. So first I'm going to trace 3 or 4 of these leaves on here, spreading them out. I don't want them really close together. We're looking for kind of like a balanced arrangement. We're going to add more leaves as we go along. I can also flip it over. It can go off the page. So all of this gets traced. That looks pretty good. And then maybe I'll put one right here. And I'm going to paint this one now, and I'm going to let this side dry just a little bit more, and then I'll do the circles next. So now I'm going to take that same orange here, but I'm going to add a little bit more pigment from the paint. So it's going to be a little bit darker, and this is when you really need that nice pointed paintbrush, because you're going to go around all of your shapes. And this again is called reverse painting or negative space painting. Negative space, when you're looking at art, it's the space that is the background or the space that isn't taken up by the object. And so the space around the leaves is considered the negative space. You want to make sure that your brush stays nice and wet, but we don't want it to be quite as diluted as the first layer. And also not full color either. We still want it to have a little water in it because we're going to do a couple more layers on this. This is a great, like, mental health check. If you're feeling stressed, to me, this is a nice way to kind of relax, drink a hot cup of tea, you know, listen to some music while you do this. This is just a really nice way to relax. I know other people will say, this would not be relaxing for me, Allison. Other people find other activities more relaxing. But for me, this is just doesn't require much brain work, and it's just relaxing and an easy way to kind of de-stress. That's looking pretty nice. Can you see the leaves? So I'm just going to keep going on the orange until I've gone around all of the leaves. I've seen another one similar to this one, but they did hearts, and same way the way I'm doing all the orange. That one was hearts. And they started with the pale, pale, pale red, and then they went darker and darker and darker and used red for the whole thing. I thought that was kind of a nice way to do a monochromatic version of this with hearts. But you could pick any shape. I've done them with fish. One of our students at the middle school did this with the monochromatic, and they did pumpkins, and I just absolutely loved that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now this side has to dry. I'm going to flip over to this side and do my circles next. And again, 3 or 4 good circles. They can go off the page, make them be nice and balanced. This is going to be kind of the start of these circles. We're going to add more circles as we go. So I've got 4 circles on here. And now I'm going to choose one color to paint all of this. And I'm going to choose this blue right here. This is just the standard blue. This is a standard blue. Let's look. That's the standard blue. This is like the indigo. I'm going to go with this standard blue. So I'm going to take this. I want it to be somewhat diluted, but not super diluted, not as diluted as that first orange. And I'm going to paint over all of this, and I'm going to paint around every circle. So what's interesting about this, because there's multiple colors in the background or in that original wash, what's interesting is that your blue is going to look different depending on where you're painting it. So right here over the teal looks different, and up here over this hot pink looks different. So you're going to get a very different finished look because we did a multicolor wash. And again, figuring out what colors look good together takes some practice. Of course, you know, like you can look at the color wheel and think about colors that are close to each other on the color wheel usually look better together, or they blend better together. They, you know, don't turn to brown if they're neighbors on the color wheel. But also it just takes a little trial and error and practice of blending colors and see what you like. Just getting comfortable with it. And if it looks kind of streaky, that's okay. Don't worry about that because we're going to do lots of layers on this. Of course, now this corner is going to look more green, obviously, because we're putting blue on top of yellow. And again, that's why we avoided the orange in the background on this one, because I didn't want shades of brown. Although there is a little, it looks like a little peachy orange right there. Let's see what it does. It's not too bad. If you were trying to do this with a bigger brush, it would be challenging. And if you were trying to do this with a flat brush, it would be challenging. This is a great lesson to teach student artists how to use brush control and how to decide how much water you need. If you had too much water on this, it would, you know, bleed into the areas where you don't want it to go. Oh my goodness, that's looking so pretty. All right, I'm going to hit this both with the hair dryer, and then we're going to do another layer. This orange one's almost dry. All right, this one's not quite dry yet, but while I work on this one, that one's going to dry. So now I'm going to add more leaves. I'm going to trace these again, and I'm going to trace them if these overlap any place. Like let's say I'm going to put one here. I do not want this line. So we want this one to look like it's behind the first leaf. So I'm going to start here, work my way around. Okay, so now this one looks like it's behind this one. And then maybe this one stands alone up here. There we go. And then I've got room here for another one. Sometimes it's nice to have multiple sizes like I did on this one. There's big hearts and little hearts. That helps kind of with placement, but I'm just going to go with one leaf on this one, and I'm going to put one here, leaving this untraced, this area that would cross over or overlap into that first leaf. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to paint orange around all the leaves. So now I have 6 total leaves. I'm going to paint the orange, and I want to add more pigment to this little puddle, and I'm going to paint around everything. So just take this and start going around it all. I would say if you're wanting to do this as an art lesson, if it's if you're an art teacher, I did this with 6th, 7th, and 8th, and it was really successful. Probably wouldn't go younger than 5th just because it requires quite a bit of control on the paintbrush. But our middle school age kids were really successful with this project. We let them pick out make their own tracers, which some were just circles and triangles and things, but other people got creative, like the pumpkin, some stars. I loved the ones with the stars. That was really, and if you do it with this, multicolored, it can turn out really good. This could make a really nice card, like a card front, fall time card. Oh, maybe I'll take this after I'm done with it and mail it to my mom. Happy fall, Mom. She would like it. All right, I'm just continuing to go around all 6 of my leaves with this medium orange. Remember, the very first wash we did was here, and that almost looks white now. That first orange is so pale, it almost looks white, and you can see it's really starting to show depth. Something else that would show depth, again talking about different sizes, is if you had 3 different sized leaves and you laid the first leaves down first, and then the second leaves, the first leaves would have to be the biggest leaf, and then the second leaves would be slightly smaller, and then the third row of leaves would be the smallest. And that, with the color change and the scale change of the leaves, you would really see that illusion of depth. This is looking great. This is looking really great. Also, if you're teaching this to students, you can take multiple days to do this and let these dry in between. If you have, a drying rack, pop them in the drying rack overnight, and then the next day they get their stencils back out or their tracers back out and trace them and do the next layer, and then let them dry and then get them back out. So it can be for a really good middle school lesson that way. All right, I'm gonna blow dry the rest of this one. You do need to be careful when you're doing your blow dry that you do not turn it on high and blow the paint. It can really mess up your design. Okay, I'm gonna add some more circles here. There's one. I'm gonna put one maybe overlapping with this one. I'll put one here. Maybe one over here. And then we take that exact same blue that we did before and we paint around everything again. So make sure you get a clean brush. You don't want any of that orange paint from this one on your brush. If you're doing multiples, always make sure the students know they can change their water cup if they need to rinse and put clean water in, because it can get muddy if you're not careful. I love the way this is turning out. I really like the yellow against this blue. So these 3 were my originals. They're gonna have the most vivid colors from the background because they're straight background without any other blue layer on top. I've seen other paintings where if you're gonna do like a big scale painting, you could do like trees, and it almost looks like the tree all the way in the back is like foggy. Oh, it'd be such a good like Halloween painting where, in the distance, or it could be like a foggy cemetery, and you have, one tree in the foreground that's brighter and then it goes darker, have like a purpley black sky. That would be neat. I haven't really explored this kind of painting beyond just these simple shapes. But I can only imagine where you could take these. If you got really good at this, you could still use a stencil if you wanted to repeat like a tree. Or you could do, like an ocean theme and have 2 or 3 different fish. That would be neat. I'm starting to brainstorm some different ideas to take this to the next step beyond just simple shapes. Like hearts are pretty simple. Leaves, triangles, circles. Can you see it happening? It's starting to happen. I love it. It's like magic. It's like art magic. All right, let's see. That layer's done. Then we're gonna go do one more layer on the other side. I'm starting to see a little puddle here. I don't want to lose that. I'm gonna pick that up. All right, let's do one more layer on the leaves. So I'd be really curious to know what would happen if what did I do with my leaf? Here it is. If I trace these leaves and then on top of this one did like red. I might try that another time. I'm gonna stick with this one as the monochromatic option, but if I changed up my color on the third layer, what would that be like? I don't know. That's why it's nice to use a little small piece just to try different things. I think I'm gonna have one coming in over here like this. One nice thing about making little small artworks is it's just like you don't feel like you're wasting the paper. Say this is just a practice. Try to practice a little small painting every single night. All right, I did it. I got blue in there. Didn't rinse my brush good enough. All right, there we go. All right, I'm taking more pigment. I want this to be the darkest layer, and I'm gonna go around all of my leaves. This last layer, I don't have any full leaves. I'm gonna go all the way around all the leaves with the darkest layer. And I want this to be pretty pigmented because this should look darker than the last layer. I say just try it every night. Try to do some kind of painting in the evening if you want to get better at painting. 20 minutes or 30 minutes every night. And then, if you end up painting on the back of this, great. If you end up recycling it, great. Just try it and see what happens. You're going to get better over time with your paintings if you just keep practicing. This is really all about brush control, understanding how colors mix, understanding how much water you need for something, right? Because we've really tried this one. The first orange was almost all water, and now it's almost all paint. Of course, my brush is still wet. Still have to have some water in here, but I'm using a lot more pigment than I was at the beginning. So this is a good lesson on brush control and the amount of paint you're using versus the amount of water you're using. Oh yeah, that looks so good. So the first leaf was that pale, pale, pale orange, but look, it looks almost white. And then the second round of leaves looks kind of yellow. It's really showing a lot of depth. I think fall is my favorite of all the seasons. I love Halloween and pumpkins and cool weather and sweaters, so I guess that's why I wanted to do this fall leaf one. It's I'm recording this at the end of September, and we've started to have a few cooler days, and I love summer. I love all the seasons. I guess I like living in a place where the seasons change, but I do get very excited when fall comes. I like all the fall things. My next episode that I'm going to film is going to be about some leaf printing, so you'll want to check that one out also. That's going to be the next episode. That's going to be really fun. All right, so this guy's pretty much done on this side. Doesn't that look fantastic? All right, I'm going to blow dry this just a little bit, and then I'm going to do my last layer of those. Whoop. All right, one more round of circles. And again, I'm going to use my pencil. I'm going to pop in a few more circles here, making sure I don't go into these original circles. I think I'm going to put one right here. This is such a doable project for a beginner, adult, or young student, middle school age student. I think that anyone could try this. You don't need a lot of supplies for this. You could get everything you need at Michael's. Okay, I'm going to make this darker. This blue is going to be the darkest it needs to be now. I'm going to go around all the circles again. Again, I don't know what would happen, but what if I went back over the whole thing with like that indigo color? Remember at the beginning, I kind of went back and forth on which blue I wanted to use. I wonder how it would turn out if I tried a little. I'm going to do it. I'm going for it. I'm going to try a little bit of this darker blue on there and just see what happens. It's like an indigo blue. Why not? All right, this is when you need that really good pointy brush to go around all your circles. I want a nice, dense color, not a lot of water. So, for some reason, these circles just look so sparkly to me because of the multicolored wash. It looks like a party. Maybe this could be a card too. I'll cut it up and send it as a birthday card. I like using this darker color. Maybe I'll mix some of this darker indigo blue with this color. It makes it look even darker. The last layer should be your darkest layer. Oh wow, yeah. You can really see the depth. It gives the illusion of depth and distance between the circles, and some circles look like they're farther back. So can you imagine if you had different sizes? Like if this circle right here was smaller, it would look like it was even farther back. So I want to hear from you. If you decide to do this project, you can reach out to me. Again, my name's Allison Greenhouse. I am on Instagram and Facebook, and my tag is at Ghouse Studio. You can always send me a message and show me what you painted. I would love to see it. And I hope that you've learned something from me today about watercolor. And I really encourage you to just just try it. Just go ahead and try it and let yourself, you know, make mistakes and practice. If you practice every day, you're gonna see growth for sure. Okay, look here. Let's look down on this one. There's my 2 finished reverse paintings, all the orange fall leaves and my party confetti. It looks like sparkly confetti. Wow, those turned out so good. It gives the illusion of depth, and we practice using our watercolor paints. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.